Hey, this is Randy, the cheap audio man. We have a special guest today. It is Skylabs Audio, aka Kevin. How you say your last name? Mall,
Yeah,
Mole,
yeah, like a
Darth
shopping
Mall.
mall. Yeah,
Oh,
or
all right,
Darth Mall, but
Darth
shopping
Mall.
malls usually. Yeah.
So Kevin was cool enough. He reached out to me, and I can't remember if you reached out to me. Yeah, you reached out to me over email,
Yeah.
and I had seen one of your videos before, and we talked about some YouTube stuff. But you were kind enough to offer up the fixation of my Yamaha CR 800 for the low price of free. And
Hmm.
so I had to jump on that, man. So first, thank you for fixing my Yamaha, and thank you for being here today, my friend.
No, man, I appreciate it for sure. I mean, I had seen people mention, and you had mentioned in previous videos that your Yamaha was just kind of sitting there not being used, and I thought it was a kind of a shame, being
Yeah.
it's such a nice piece. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
well,
it
I
worked
love
out.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome, man. So your channel is called Skylabs Audio, right?
Skylabs Audio. Yeah.
And it's all about vintage stuff.
Yes, I'd say yeah, for the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
How'd you get into it? So tell me where you're at right now.
We're in West Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm at the shop right now. This is just kind of we're
That's by
closed
Des
today.
Moines, right?
Yeah, it's suburbs, I guess you'd say, but yeah, Des Moines,
Uh,
Iowa.
Cool. And so you don't do any online stuff. It's just local, right?
No, we do not do any as far as electronics go. We do sell, like t-shirts and stuff like that, small items, but not electronics.
Yeah, you're not sending out a
So
receiver or anything like that.
no, no.
How'd you get into vintage audio?
I was doing home theater and automation installation, and I never, I wasn't one that ever had a huge budget for audio equipment.
Right.
Fortunately, I was stubborn enough to bash my way through repairing equipment when
Okay.
could pick it up cheap on Craigslist or Facebook, that type of thing.
Right.
And you know, I've always just really liked audio, and I found out that this old stuff from the 70s is built incredibly well and it sounds incredibly good once it's working properly. And so for somebody like me that was on such a minimum budget, it was just a perfect, I guess, marriage, I guess you'd say, in a way.
So
Me
what
and
one
vintage
point
audio.
did you like think, hey, I can make this work as a business?
Well, I was installing Control 4 and home theater systems and selling vintage equipment on the side via Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And eventually I'm like, I'm making more doing this than I am, um, installing and working for somebody else. And my wife and I both said, go for it. Why not? So I had a friend of mine that had it was a 5,000 square foot mid-century warehouse, and she let me set up a small little shop in the corner of it just to kind of test the waters, which was awesome. It's called Modville. Um,
I
and
think I remember you saying that on one of the videos, like kind of like an antiques type mall type
Yeah,
of a place or
totally.
something like that. Yeah.
Totally. Yep. And I would, I just, looking back on it, it's almost, you almost cringe because I probably had like 3 or 4 receivers. I didn't really know what I was doing. And, but,
Well, that's never
uh,
stopped me from trying to be on YouTube, my friend. So,
well, I mean, that's the way you got to do it sometimes, just
right.
jumping with both feet.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
know.
what
Yeah.
was your first piece that you sold?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Oh, it might have been like a Harman Kardon, like a 330C or, yeah, I think it was probably a Harman Kardon 330C, if I remember right. Yeah.
So, what's your vibe on vintage? I know like some of the prices have been going crazy. I haven't really been looking lately, but once I saw, I think what is that? The Pioneer
Oh,
1980.
1980. Yeah.
Yeah. Once that hit like 10 grand on eBay, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, but I mean, look at comparisons. You'll hear a lot of people say, I don't know why Marantz isn't doing a throwback or Pioneer isn't doing a throwback piece. And I think a lot of people are wrong because Yamaha's already making one. It's called like an S3000 or something.
Yeah,
And
even the like 301, 501, 701, they still have vintage vibes for
sure.
sure.
Well,
Yeah,
this one's silver and it's got big view meters and
right.
it's spec
Yeah.
for spec. It's actually a 1978 CA 1010. I mean, spec for spec. It's almost identical. With the new one, you get a remote, some creature comforts, and internet capabilities. But who cares about that anyway? I can throw a Sonos box or a Blue Note or whatever it is on the back of one, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But those are what, 8 grand
Yeah.
for S3000?
Or the Yamaha?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea, man.
No,
Once it
yeah.
gets above like
Well,
1500, but like it's my eyes start to glaze over.
and well, me too. But my point is, if you've got a spec for spec throwback receiver that's or integrated amplifier that's 8 grand, or you could buy an original from 77 for $1,200.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard not to just go pick up an old one. And I think it prices a lot of people out of that market. That's why they're not doing throwbacks. That's why Marantz hasn't come out with a modern 2270, in my opinion. It's because it'd be $6,000 or $7,000 and nobody'd buy it.
I got you. Do you think prices are coming down? Or you think they're going to be staying the same or going up?
I
And I know
think
that's
that
kind of a loaded question because there's some stuff like where's the deals like right now? Vintage audio, what's the best bang for your buck? Um,
yeah, local Craigslist, Facebook, get out of the big city, go drive a little bit, take a risk, and pick up an entry level or a mid level receiver from Pioneer, Marantz, Sansui, Yamaha, Kenwood.
okay, so now they get
You
it,
know,
they turn it on, one of the channels is out. What do they do then?
start with Deoxit and
Oh, okay.
YouTube videos.
All right.
You, you
Very
know, you
cool.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean that's the truth, though. You know,
Yeah. You hear about people saying, "Oh, this thing needs to be recapped in its entirety," or "This thing's just been recapped." Like, what's your opinion on like how long do these things last? And does everything need to be recapped if it's 35 or 40 years old?
well, it's a pretty loaded question, but I will answer it. And our opinion is, if okay, so let's say this: are we talking about an entry level piece that's worth $300, or a flagship piece that's worth 1980 that's worth 10? Um, it might be worth having somebody recap that 1980 that's worth $10,000. It's probably not worth, the SX 450 that's worth 300 to recap the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Our kind of consensus here at the shop with all the techs is, we do the power supply, which is kind of what we consider the heart of the amplifier. It
Okay.
dispenses voltages to all the other boards.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to put money into it, knowing those caps are 40 years old, which they are, that's probably where we would put it. It's not, and that's what we did with yours. It's not a guarantee. I mean, there's still another 200 components inside of
Right.
that receiver or amplifier that could go at any moment. But you could take a lightning strike at any moment, grabbing something from Best Buy too.
Sure.
So, even once you're outside of the warranty on a newer piece of gear, then what are you going to do? Because I guarantee it, there's less people out there that will restore a 2010 model than there are that will restore a 1970s model,
Right.
because one, there's no IC chips for the stuff in the 2010s. They won't give you that kind of stuff. There's no schematics. They're not meant to be repaired in a way. They're mainly almost disposable.
Right.
And that's, I think, also driving the vintage market, in that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to repair some of this stuff. You just need to be bullheaded and willing to watch a bunch of YouTube videos. You know,
Sorry, my
oh,
dog's going crazy. Um,
yeah.
it's it's what you get here at the Cheap Audio Man Studios. Yeah. Kids are out of school today on a Tuesday, which is a lot of fun.
Oh,
So
for voting.
I don't know. The kids
That
don't.
yeah, right.
My 9-year-old's gonna go vote. No, I love vintage audio. The problem is most of the pieces that I've gotten, um, With the exception, I guess the Yamaha is probably the most solid. I have an old Pioneer that I just kind of dusted out and threw deoxit, and it works. It sounds pretty good, but the problem that I see is like it being a tech is kind of a dying like breed for like there's not a ton like you can't just throw a baseball or a rock and hit, a vintage receiver technician. So do you have any advice for people that, where to look for vintage
Absolutely.
folks? Yeah.
Yep. Get on Audio Karma.
Oh, Audio Karma.
And
Okay, cool.
yep, and post up, say, hey, I live here. Are there any reputable techs in my area? A lot of times what you're looking for is maybe a retired guy.
Hmm.
They're not at a real shop, but that's a really good source for retired technicians that are just looking to make a couple extra bucks. And yeah, I would definitely go that route.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Um,
If not, there's people on eBay, just real quick, that, they do offer those services, that'll say, I'll fix any SX 450 or any SX 1050 for $500. And you send it to them, and, it's backed by eBay. You're not going to get, just make sure you follow their guidelines. You got 30 days, all that kind of
right.
stuff to make sure you're getting what you paid for.
Yeah.
And and that's no different than if you took it to some guy's house in a suburb of your town either. So there's always risk with everything. I think
Yeah.
a lot of questions I get online, and when customers that come in, they're always looking for, a solid, surefire way to assure that their piece of electronics or their purchase is going to last. And it just doesn't exist. It's just not
Right.
the reality. It's always a risk.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
is. Yep.
Yeah. Even new stuff. I mean, there's a reason
Totally.
why there's warranties, and most of the time you don't have to ever use it. I've got a Yamaha 5-channel receiver that I bought in, I don't know, 1997. Still works. Throws off a lot of heat, but the thing works just like
Isn't
the
that
day
cool
that,
though?
yeah, man. I don't think I've ever had, knock on wood, I don't think I've ever had a piece of electronics, an amplifier, go bad. And I've bought a lot of
Yeah.
amplifiers and listened to a lot in the last couple of years. I don't think there's every once in a while, maybe a channel kind of crackles, but that's about it. And they're actually built pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You must have either, bought quality, or you did a lot of, you know, speaker wire, keeping that good, no breaks, no cracks. There's a lot of storing correctly, keeping it out of the elements. There's a lot of things you can do to prolong the life of a piece of electronics. And,
So, yeah.
so
All right. So you get a vintage piece. You go to turn the balance knob and it's just crackle, crackle. And I know it's a dirty pot. So, like, explain what's going on within the pot that's making those crackles and things like that.
well, there's openings in that potentiometer that either corrosion or debris, or they've just sat idle. And when you go to move it, you get a dead spot from where the the contact was making contact with the wafer. And so you're really essentially going in there and you're cleaning that debris or corrosion off of the wafer, and just getting solid contact throughout the sweep. So um you know it, Alps made pots that were encased.
Mm-hmm.
The theory was, if there's no way for moisture or any kind of elements to get inside, it's never going to need cleaned. Well, what turns out to be is that they're just a real pain in the ass to get to. And a lot of times you have to, some guys will drill into that casing to get the cleaner in there. And then, you're taking a pretty good risk because you can't see where you're drilling on the
Right.
inside. But yeah, so that's really it. I mean, there's a lot of really good videos on, how to clean pots and receivers with deoxit or any kind of solvent solution for electronics. And that's a really good starting point. I mean, before you take it to a tech, buy yourself a $18 can of deoxit and go crazy on it. You're not going to hurt anything.
Yeah. So if you're like if you're cleaning out a pot, do you just pull off the knob and just shoot it around like where the post comes out, or where do you shoot it
No,
at?
No, you don't want to do that. That's a misconception. A lot of people, you want to open up the receiver, and on the inside, I probably have a pot sitting here because people come in a lot and ask this question. And there's a hole where that pot is on the inside that you've got to get that little nozzle into and shoot it in the
Okay.
inside. Yep.
Okay. All
And
right.
then, a lot of times too, we call exercising your potentiometers. It's kind of funny, but you know, for some, like some Yamahas and Sansuis have those um encased potentiometers. Go up there before you turn on the receiver every 2 or 3 days and work it back and forth. Just twist that thing like it owes you money type of
Okay.
deal. You know what I mean? Really get
Yeah.
after it. And a lot of times that will free up any maybe carbon or anything that's on there too. cheap
Cool.
cheap way to get by, because really, if you pick up, let's say you pick up a Kenwood, a midline Kenwood for $300 and it's got a little snap, crackle, and pop in it. What are you going to spend to get something at that caliber in today's money? A
Yeah,
class
there's not
D
a lot.
amplifier? No, there's not. Not in a AB good sounding with a phono preamp. You kind of gotta, in my opinion, you gotta put up with some of the, it's like buying an old house. It's got character.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect, but
Yeah. What are some of your favorite pieces?
um I like I like a lot of the Sansui stuff. I like the Pioneer stuff for repairability. Marantz, I feel like, has a big premium tax on it for its visuals, for
Mm-hmm.
its cosmetic appearance. Macintosh, I say this all the time, all roads lead to Macintosh. That company is unique in that it's the same people. It's been bought and sold, but they still have the ability to make you a knob or a faceplate, or everything that's been made has been made in-house.
Mm-hmm.
You Pioneer or Yamaha, you call them and you ask them for a knob or for see if they'll get you a schematic. They have no idea. They could care
Right.
less.
Yeah.
Our tech Rob the other day, we called Macintosh because we were working on one from mid 70s, and there had been a variant. They changed the board layout, and he was talking to the one of the lead techs over there within 5 minutes, and the guy was emailing us a PDF of a newer schematic with the board we were working on. There isn't another company in that
Yeah.
caliber that will do that for you, and that's why there is such a premium on Macintosh. So Macintosh always, it's just always good.
You want to hear the irony though? Is so I was looking at getting some a really nice vintage piece, and I was willing to spend some bucks on it. And I started looking, and the nicer Pioneers, Morances, even some of the Kenwoods were going, even some of the realistics, like the STA series of realistics. Like I think there was an equivalent of the 1980 in a realistic, and it was going for 800, $1,000. And the irony was, I started looking up some Mac stuff, and although it is expensive, it it didn't have the same price increase that the Pioneers, the Marantz, and stuff. So I ended up getting a Mac 7270 and a C15 preamp, and
Hmm.
all in, I mean, I spent thousands. It wasn't 19 Pioneer 1980 money, but I ended up
Mm-hmm.
getting a monstrous Mac amp that looks beautiful. To your
Mm-hmm.
point, can be serviced forever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I came in at a price that was probably maybe marginally higher than had I gotten something really good from Marantz or Pioneer. So I think if anything, the Mac tax isn't as bad on some of the vintage stuff compared to Pioneer and Marantz. What
I
say
think you're
you,
right.
Kevin? All right.
Well, no, I think you're totally right, and it's really odd too because there's probably more of those Marantzes and Pioneers out there than there are the Macintosh. I think you're exactly right, especially with the receivers. I think the Macintosh receivers don't get the money that their amplifiers and preamps do, and also maybe some people just don't. They automatically assume it's going to be out of their price range, so they
Right.
don't bother looking.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Macintosh very rarely walks in this door. And
Oh,
when it does, it's gone. I've got a list that I can, there's a few pieces out there that they won't even hit the floor. I'm 5 deep on people looking.
oh, okay. So like they're saying, hey, if this comes in, shoot me an email.
Absolutely. I mean, there's JBL speakers, Pioneer SX 1980s, 1250s, the big boys. It's always the flagship pieces that everybody's looking for. They're looking for that grail item.
Mm-hmm.
And and Macintosh is the same way. And people just don't seem to peel off of it.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll change if there is, a downturn in the market. But I really feel back to a question you asked a while ago. In my opinion, I think vintage audio is just going to ride the economy like everything else. I mean, if vintage audio goes down, it'll be because the economy is going with it. At this point, I don't see the youth that we get coming in the door is what keeps me going, because it's not that I don't appreciate the boomers, that we have a good amount of those too, but without the youth getting interested in this, I would be looking at more of a 5-year as a long term
Mm-hmm.
than what I am now, which is, I mean, we have a lot of parents walking in the door, and we will in the next month, especially before Christmas, that will be buying their kids a first-time receiver, speakers, and amplifier. And they are not shy to spend money on records, and it's just really cool to see, because I don't think this hobby's going anywhere,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Like, what's the percentage of young kids or like stuff being purchased for people younger than 40 from like your total clientele, do you think?
I would say it's probably over 30. I would say it's probably 70%, and then under 30 is probably 30.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
cool. That's
yeah,
really cool, man.
yeah. It's
Um,
more than a lot of people think. I think most people think it's all older people coming in and buying the system they couldn't afford when they were a kid, and there's a lot of that. I'm not
yeah.
denying that. But
Yeah.
we've got several restaurants in town. Actually, these speakers need to go to a restaurant here tomorrow. A lot of restaurants are starting to showcase vintage audio. I mean, this is right at the hostess stand when you walk in the door.
That's did you refurb that?
No, I we had a tweeter out on it, so I actually just went through and tested the wiring, and it was a loose wire, so no big deal. Those will go
So the
right back into
surrounds are
service.
still good and everything?
Yeah, these they don't rot. This would be um a paper surround or a cloth surround. Some rot, some don't.
Do you restore speakers too?
We do refoam, and then we do recap. We do not recone. I recommend a couple local places around here to do that.
So if somebody's getting into this, they're fairly handy. They can run a soldering iron, or maybe they get us a piece that they just want to practice on. Where would you point them on YouTube to find, info?
There's some really good X-Ray Tony B is one. um I'm gonna draw, I like Blue Glow Electronics. He's kind of tapered off a little bit, but he's got some really good instructional videos. There's another guy, Mr. Carlson's Lab, that's way above my pay grade, but I do know the techs here love watching him. He just I'm not at that level. I can get dangerous. I can replace caps, but when it comes to deep troubleshooting like that, that's not me. But there's definitely some really good guys out there and some really good tutorials um, that will walk you through everything. And that's the cool thing about a lot of these guys are retired,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're looking, they want to pass the torch on. You know what I mean? I mean, I
Yeah.
think they're sitting there on audio karma waiting for somebody to ask a question they know the answer,
Yeah.
so that they could be the one that helps them, and take advantage of that. Audio karma is a huge wealth of information. My shop wouldn't be open without YouTube and audio karma. There's no way. We don't have support from the manufacturer.
That's
We
amazing.
never have. I mean, I don't expect it. Why would you? So if it wasn't for the guys that have been in the trenches for the last 40 years. We'd be shooting in the dark and not even open. So
What do you want out of YouTube, man? Like, why? Well, let's back up. When did you post your first YouTube video and why?
well, let's see. It was probably before the pandemic. I thought I absorb a ton of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really dyslexic. I can't learn from reading. I barely got through high school. I mean, really bad. And so everything I learned visually. And so
Mm-hmm.
YouTube was like this huge um it opened up a lot of doors. So any subject I kind of found myself interested in, I would just going into these rabbit holes on YouTube. And I just thought, there's a lot of audio channels out there, but there's not any that really focus on what we do, which
Mm-hmm.
is more the vintage side of it.
Right.
And I thought, we kind of are offering something unique here, maybe, kind of a way to put this kind of information out into the world for somebody else to absorb. It's not I mean, it's great for branding too. I'm not going to lie, but on the flip side, it's not all about branding because we don't even sell online.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not really able to kind of take advantage of any, notoriety we get from YouTube. I just think it's an interesting subject, and I hope, people find interest in it, I guess, really is about it.
Yeah. That's cool.
So,
What was your first
yeah.
video?
Ooh, I don't even remember, man. I don't watch them. You don't watch yours either, do you?
I do when I edit, and then that's about it.
Well,
Uh,
that's what, yeah, but after you post it, you don't go back, do you?
generally not.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I get a comment and then I'm like, did I say that? And then I'll have to watch it back or something like that. But what do you think like of this YouTube thing? Has it exceeded your expectations? Has it, did you go into it like having a solid goal that you were going to hit, or is it just like, yeah, I'm going to
No.
put some videos up and
I'm
see what
gonna
happens?
yeah, I don't like giving myself goals. It always lets me down. I mean, I'm not one to say I'm going to do something and not do it, but on the flip side, I like being realistic, especially with something that's so out of my control. If people don't respond to me or they're not interested in the content, I mean, there's no point in putting content out. But
Yeah.
and it's not all about that, but you get it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's weird. It's definitely weird, but I'm just gonna keep on, making videos and hoping people appreciate or enjoy the content. And if they do, cool. If not, I got other stuff to do.
What was the video that kind of like popped and you weren't expecting it to pop as far
That
as
was
like views and subs and things like that?
that was the a video on when MoFi Gate happened.
Oh, okay.
If you're, yeah, and I sat there on that video for 2 weeks, and I'm like, everybody has this subject has been beaten down, and until everybody's blue in the face about it. And I was like, screw it, and I submitted it, and I ended up getting a call from Chad Kassem, the guy that owns I'm drawing a blank, QRP and the the adversary for, I shouldn't say that either because that's not true, but the yang to the to MoFi. He
Okay.
runs, yeah. Everybody knows who Chad Kassem is. He's a great guy, super nice guy. And it was really cool. Yeah, I'm looking for vintage electronics for him. He's got a couple pieces he's looking for too. So
I'm sorry. I don't know who he is. So
um yeah,
so he's
he's got
not
a
he works for MoFi or does not work for MoFi?
no, he's got his own labels.
Oh, okay. All right.
Quality, yeah. Analog Productions, I think it's his blanket company. He's in Salina, Kansas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I mean,
I
they've been
think
around
someone
forever
told
too.
I think someone on my Patreon told me about him because it was some place out of Kansas that was putting out
Yeah,
really solid stuff.
yep,
What's
yep.
your favorite type of music? Like, what do you listen to, man?
Oh, I'm all over. I really am. I used to be into Metallica and stuff when I was younger. I'm not as angry as I used to be, and
No, man, you don't have to be angry to enjoy a little Metallica now.
um, but yeah, I like I can't get into jazz. I've tried. I want to. I
I
think
want
I
to. I want to really
well,
like jazz, but I can't.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just not cool enough for it. I don't get it. You know what I mean? One of those things
Yeah.
where I like everybody I know that's really into jazz is really cool. Why am I not getting this? But whatever. Um, I
I
like
tried to talk myself into liking a pair of speakers once. I'm like, everybody's reviewed the speaker. Everybody loves the speaker. What's wrong with me? Why don't I like this speaker? And I try to convince myself like there was something wrong with me. And that was kind of the genesis of the channel, why the channel started. Um, is I just didn't get something. And I thought I was the problem, not the speaker. So it was interesting.
what speaker was it?
Kef LS50.
Oh,
I just didn't like it. I thought it had no
yeah,
bass, man. Too
yeah,
forward, too hard on top on the upper mid range. I mean, there's some cool things about it. I get it, but like
yeah.
I,
Well, it'd be like me with heresies or clips. I'm not a fan.
yeah,
And but and that's sacrilegion in the vintage world.
yeah,
I mean, I could be strung up and flogged for saying that, but
yeah,
it just doesn't do it for me. I'm not. If it does it for you, that's cool. Whatever,
yeah, yeah. I'm the
Yeah,
same way. I mean, I
yeah.
had the heresies in. I listened to them. I thought they were good. I thought maybe someday, but I don't know. I don't like hard. Well, I wouldn't call it hard. I don't like a pronounced upper mid range around 1800. Like if there's a push up there, I don't know what it is about my hearing, man. I'm just like
hmm
it sounds good for about 20 minutes, and after that I can't deal with it anymore.
For me with horn speakers, the best way that I found to describe why I don't like it is it doesn't sound like especially with vocals, it doesn't sound like they're in front of me. The vocals sound like they're in my ears, like they're literally in my ears, and it's a sensation that I just don't like. I feel like I almost want to be like, get out and get up there where you're
hmm
supposed to be and out of my ears.
hmm
But I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of go back and forth on clips. I have the RP 500M. I like those. And I will listen to them occasionally. But yeah, it's not my favorite speaker out there, but
Yeah,
people
give me a
love them.
ribbon or a soft dome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like ribbons too, man.
Yeah. I love ribbons. Old emit infinities. I've got a pair sitting out here right now. It's tough not to take that kind of stuff home, but
What do you have at home?
I always have a revolving door of speak. I mean, it just comes through the doors. So why wouldn't you take it home for a month? I that I have three sets of speakers well, four that don't leave, and that's a pair of ADS L810s, which are incredible. A pair of JBL Jubal L65s, which are amazing. Um, the Nautilus, the big B&Ws, and then I guess that's it. Well, the four, I've got this monster Macintosh set of speakers, but they're so big they don't even fit in my house. I'm kind of waiting for the next house to be able to set them up so I can sell them. It's one of those things, they're kind of like this. I mean, they're 640 pounds, 101 tweeters or something like that. I mean, it's insane. Um, and I don't want to sell them until I get a chance to live with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've owned
Well,
them
I
for
don't, man. I
7 years, but
there's zero chance I'm ever gonna have one of those obelisks in my home because I get it. Like there's those giant speakers that like people aspire to, and I'm like, that's not for me, man. Maybe I can't say it won't ever be for me, but like I can't even imagine having that in the house. Like not in my house, not with my family. Like I don't know, man.
if you had like a dedicated listening room or something, I mean, like the IRS speakers that Paul's got out in PS Audio, You
Hmm.
wouldn't want, I mean, have you ever thought about sitting in front of something like that? And maybe, what that experience feels like with that much audio coming at you from every, you know, I don't know.
There's a company called GR Research. They make speaker
Sure.
kits. Anyway, they're around here in Texas. So I went out there and I listened to these. They're really big speakers. I mean, probably taller than me, maybe 8 foot speakers or something.
Yeah.
And just one, big ribbon tweeter in the middle, and then just a bunch of, drivers below and above. And I mean, it was that style of speaker, that huge speaker. And I'm listening to them and it was impressive. But frankly, I enjoyed the sound that came from the smallest, most affordable speaker they
Mm,
had versus this giant one.
yeah.
And I kind of got it. I mean, I'm not going to say it was gimmicky or whatever, but I understood why people would like it, because there is definitely a stage, a presence of the band or the performers and everything, at a much greater scale than was on the small speaker. But I guess I'm pragmatic in the sense that, like, number one, the cost, number two, the positioning, number three, like, how is this going to work into my family life? And so it's kind of a
Yeah.
pro and con thing. And I was just like, I think they're cool, but like, they're just not for me.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of where I was coming from on it.
I get it. I think, maybe I've never had a dedicated listening room. I've always wanted one.
Yeah.
And, if for some reason it's in the cards, I will definitely make it happen. But if not, then I'll stick with my little bookshelves too.
Yeah.
I don't even have the room I've got isn't even big enough for the B&Ws I own. So right now I've got some small little bookshelf speakers because it's the only thing really that sounds good in that room that's not getting choked out by being so small.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of it. Our house is too small for big speakers. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah, I don't know. I like switching stuff out too. So like for
Me too.
me, like the be all end all, grail piece that's going to end my journey just doesn't exist, because I enjoy the journey too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And so if I've got a 600 speaker sitting,
Yeah. Right. Right.
like,
Right.
what am I gonna do? I'm kind of stuck. Like, I better like that speaker, otherwise I've got to contract in a forklift and maybe a crane or something to get those things out of the house.
Right.
So for me, I think it just comes back to what is easy. Like, I can pick up a 30-pound, 40-pound bookshelf, go stack it in the closet, put the other one on top, throw a blanket over it, and then put something else up and enjoy an
Yeah.
entirely different sound signature, and get to love my music all over again a different way. I personally like that. Um,
Sure.
and having these huge, speakers in the house would prevent that. Now, I'm not going to close the door on it forever, but
Yeah.
um, and I've been to enough shows, I've listened to enough these big speakers, and they're cool. That's
Yeah.
about it for me, though. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not $10,000 cool. They're not $30,000 cool.
Yeah.
Um, they're all right. So, but that's
No,
just
I
me.
get it. I do get it. Definitely some limitations there. I mean, there's a reason why mine are sitting, in a corner, not hooked up. Same reason you just described,
Yeah.
just too limiting. But
Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate everything you did for the Yamaha. And I mean, you shot some footage of that, right? You're gonna make a
yeah,
video?
absolutely. Yeah. I just got to put it together. I've been sick for the last couple weeks, and just Christmas season coming up. It is, it's just turn and
Have you
burn right
stocked
now.
up for Christmas? Are you trying
Yeah.
to bring in as many things as you can?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Where do you source your products? Like, where do you get them at?
All local. I mean, I end up purchasing maybe 10 pieces a year online. But otherwise everything comes in the door.
So people bring it to you, or are you
Yep.
like actively looking for
No,
it?
no, I haven't left the shop and purchased anything in years.
So someone just walks in off the street and says, "Hey, do you want to buy this from me?"
That's right. Yep. Or they
You
want to trade up. Here, this is what happens a lot. And I'll get a call. Hey, I hear you buy vintage stereo equipment. Yep. What do you got? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just in town for the weekend. I'm settling my parents' estate. Unfortunately, they passed away, and we are selling everything. And I happen to be in a district that has several antique stores and other things. So it makes it really convenient for people to pull up in a big truck, and they can take the furniture across the street. They can take,
I
clothing
got
over
you.
here, and they can bring me the vintage stereo equipment. And everybody's happy.
It's a one-stop shop for all your dead ancestors.
If you want to look at it that way, yeah.
Make money off your dead parents. Come on
Well,
over. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. No, it's actually really convenient. I can see that being like very
yeah, I
convenient.
mean, yeah. If you had a parent that passed away in another state, you're gonna list their stereo equipment on Facebook Marketplace and hope to sell it in a weekend before you got to come back, or are you gonna,
Take the
you're
sure
just
thing,
gonna
man.
take it? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Kevin, I've gotten to know you, and I really enjoy talking to you. And I know that you
Absolutely.
have
You as well, man.
a great channel, really good videos. I watched your video last night about what was it? What's wrong with the hi-fi
Oh,
community?
the online community.
Yeah,
Wow.
online community. Yeah. So I watched that. I love your take on things. I'm a former Midwesterner myself, so I don't know, like just the down to earth nature and the way that you deliver was, I don't know, I get a kick out of it. But if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to Skylab's audio, I'll put a link in the description. Click on over there, subscribe, uh, give some videos a chance. I think you'll like what you see.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
No,
Absolutely.
man, my pleasure, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
like people were super kind to me, like when I started my YouTube channel, and I don't do it enough, but I want, not everybody knows all the channels out there, and it's hard to kind of, I don't know, find an audience. You've already done it though. I know there's a couple of like the top 5 or top 6 receivers or something like that. I know that's done really well for
Yeah.
you. So
Mhm.
um, but yeah, go check out Skylab's audio.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really do, man. You've been
Uh,
a uh, a really good inspiration and vote of confidence for me. So
well, you're
thank
doing
you.
great things, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, y'all have a good day. Don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through your new realistic or vintage receiver, Marantz, Kenwood, Pioneer,
There you
Sansui,
go.
and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy from the Cheap Audio Man, and this is
Kevin from Skylabs.
Kevin
Yep.
from Skylabs. Awesome.
Yep.